Let's go.
Welcome to the High Pod, episode 48. We got the usual.
We're almost on the 50.
We got Vance here. We got myself, Arun. We got new guest, Pastor Luke.
First time?
First time.
First timer.
I made it in the first 100 episodes.
Yeah, let's go.
That's going to be a special distinction. We'll get you an NFT. We'll do something. So, Pastor Luke, if you don't know, Pastor Michelle has been on the podcast multiple times before.
Yes.
The husband of Pastor Michelle. You are the CEO of Adaptic Health, the campus pastor for VIVE San Jose.
Correct.
And you're on the board, correct, for VIVE still?
We just did the transition last week.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So Paul Lambus, who was on last week.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
Well. Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
So I think today's going to be a very health-driven episode. We don't really talk about like healthcare and
we
health
should, because I feel like it's broken.
Yeah.
I've had encounters with the healthcare system the past 3
yeah.
months that have been discouraging.
Yeah. Right. So I think this is good, educational. I feel like you can tell us a lot about it.
Sure.
I think we want to start with Adaptic and kind of just get the lowdown of what your journey was to first, where your background is, and then how you ended up deciding to start Adaptic Health.
Yeah, no, great. Well, my background started off in tech. So came out to the Silicon Valley after doing math computer science at Duke, came for business school at Stanford, and really just got started doing more internal entrepreneurship at Cisco. We made video searchable. So this is before there was AI as a term. We were building out speech engines to make video searchable down to speakers and all that, and got recruited to a company after we sort of made that available across industry to build out a data platform for many different verticals. But ultimately, we saw a lot of life science customers and healthcare companies that were having challenges with their data. So we pivoted our company to like focus just on that. So launched that platform in 2017.
As a product manager, right?
Product manager, yeah.
That's how we connected originally.
That's true, yeah.
We first started going to VIVE,
Yeah.
and I was in product management for a travel data company. Luke was a product manager at his company, and we just bonded week one.
Yeah. I was like, a product guy. I found him.
The JCC lobby.
Exactly.
Could you tell you guys were both product guys before you mentioned it? Or is there something about product guys that you can just tell?
Yeah, they're just the coolest guys.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
it's pretty easy to tell based on their
very humble
swag.
guys as well.
You know? It's like product managers do nothing. Engineers hate all product managers. It's like you don't even know how to code, bro. It's like, no, but we have inner communication skills, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We know how to work cross-functionally. Like, it's just like say all the buzzwords.
Yeah.
It's because engineers don't know buzzwords. That's why product managers have jobs.
We create synergies amongst
Right.
So yeah, that was how we got in at VIVE, even just like that connection point. But in terms of the product that we were building out, it ultimately got used to help with some of the COVID vaccine, the data management piece of it.
Wow.
So it took a month, actually took less than a day to be able to do that. So that company exited 3 years ago to the Carlyle Group.
Did you keep any of your shares, or did you exercise any of your shares?
I did, but yeah, that's really what helped even with being able to go and get started.
Let's go.
Nice.
Not life-changing money.
Not life-changing, exactly. We weren't like the founders of the company. We're like the first employees of that group.
Right.
But
Isn't that like the kind of a little dirty secret about Silicon Valley? Is that there is definitely outsized outcomes for the founders.
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
I mean, they obviously take the most risks. They have the most responsibility. They're obviously kind of on the forefront.
Yeah.
And so they carry the brunt of it.
Correct.
But they also get the brunt of the reward if it works out. Most don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if it works out. And so you kind of have to be like really, really early at a company that ends up being like 10 billion plus for it to be more like life-changing money.
Correct.
If you're not
Facebook's
an executive.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's for sure. That was one advice I got coming out of business school. One of our professors, he was a founder at Benchmark Capital, and he's like, it's better to start off your career at a growth stage company that's pretty much probably has a high chance of IPOing or getting acquired, because you're going to get so many more opportunities, and then that brand is going to carry you through your career early on. Yeah. So yeah, unsolicited advice.
No, but like that's a good little pro tip, because people listen to this because they're kind of peeking in to understand technology, understand startups, as well. And it was cool that maybe it wasn't life-changing, but it was enough seed money and also enough experience and courage to get started to be a founder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that was one thing when I came out here. Like, I had already done a startup on the side during school, and I knew I wanted to do more entrepreneurial stuff. But being at Cisco, able to learn enterprise software, the sales cycle around that, as well as just to be able to just get more reps. So by the time that I'm actually starting Adaptic, it was like, all right, there's some savings, there's money there that we can have as a cushion. But also there's just the experience, there's a network. All those things are so much more invaluable. And I think that's really what's helped us in this process. So we officially started 3 years ago as a company, and really was looking at some of the things that we see even today with like the research landscape, where a lot of money is wasted. 80%, they say $200 billion is wasted in research each year.
What is it wasted on?
It's wasted on, one, you're studying questions that actually people don't care about, or it's not going to actually change any type of decision making for a patient. And then also you're not getting enough patients in to be able to actually get something that's going to be statistically significant for any type of results. So as a result, you're just doing the work, and it's not actually making a change in the broader landscape.
So there needs to be like a DOGE for the healthcare system.
Yes. So actually, there is. That's what's occurring right now.
Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't hear it. What was the?
I think DOGE is like.
Oh, they're going into that.
Yeah, they're going into. Yeah. We'll touch on that for sure.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't want to. I know you want to chat on that. So
very interesting.
But I'm curious, how do they get? Because I want you to continue on your background, but how do they get funding for stuff like this if it's not really showing impact early on? Like, how do they drive research funding if it's not showing impact?
Yeah. Well, I think there is like that not so secret for how a lot of the funding, especially in universities, occurs, where it's much more about, can you get enough consensus for what you're working on? And as a result, people are like, oh yeah, let's give money toward that. And then it just sort of keeps that cycle going versus doing something that
so
is
it's
novel.
more based on the compelling nature of that researcher and their charisma to be able to like rally consensus within like an elite group of people at a university.
Yeah, at a university, at the NIH, at different private foundations. But if you're out of style with whatever is that main narrative, then it's a lot harder to get the funding, even though that's usually what you see in retrospect, that a lot of breakthroughs came from being contrarian.
What's an example?
One example, I guess there's the negative examples.
Yeah,
but
sure.
then, so one is for Alzheimer's.
Okay.
It's something that has been getting worse and worse in terms of the number of people that are dealing with this dementia. But it was back probably like 3 decades ago where it was 2006, I'll say more specifically, the research came out that the cause of Alzheimer's were these amyloid plaques in your brain. So it's essentially like protein that gets built up. And as a result of this groundbreaking research, it's about $700,000 of NIH funding that sort of went to this research. It started this whole wave of research on how Alzheimer's could actually be cured. In 2021, so $200+ million were spent on research because of this funding. What was found out in 2024 was that it was fraudulent, the actual research.
Oh, the 2006
report was fraudulent.
Oh, no.
So there's all of this time, all this money that was spent on something that was so groundbreaking at the time. But I guess you could say there was both pressure to publish, to get tenure, to be able to say that this money was sort of spent for something useful.
Right.
And it was never reproduced, that result. So time after time, with all these Alzheimer's drugs that were on market or trying to get to market, they kept failing time after time. And they could actually show that it's reducing this plaque, but it's not actually changing anything in terms of the cognition of the individual.
Yeah.
So you're measuring the completely wrong thing that's not actually having an effect. So that's like an example of like wasted research and how it's having like a
That's
ripple
like
effect.
the symptom of guys just not being able to be vulnerable, you know? That we'd rather waste $200 million than say, I could be wrong. You know what I mean? If people actually go to marriage counseling, we probably wouldn't waste $200 million because we would have said, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I could be wrong, yeah.
We should verify this test.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So
any positive examples?
Yeah. So positive examples, I think even with, I know vaccines are sometimes in and out in terms of things being good, but I think both like the polio vaccines, things that were early on with being able to show that this is actually being helpful. A lot of that was just trial and error of us coming up with it, getting funding to be able to like do those initial pieces.
Okay.
Even with, I know for the COVID, the initial COVID vaccine, that did have some efficacy that was showing, but once things start to mutate, then it's going to change up. And then, so I think the efficacy and the safety, that was not being attended to thereafter. But the breakthrough of getting funding toward things that need to be able to be studied, that actually have evidence that's showing breakthrough, I think that's really what we see great with science. And
yeah, so you're saying that you said 200 billion is wasted annually?
Annually.
Wow. Okay, annually, and it's mainly because of what? Like just not enough due diligence in terms of efficacy, or due diligence in terms of challenging, initial research, early research?
Yeah, those things are included. So it's both, what is the research question that's there? Like, are we studying something people care about? One example is there's like muscular dystrophy.
Yep.
And if you talk with some of the families, they don't really care about what the scientist is saying with this particular measurement. It's like all of like jargon that they're speaking.
Yeah.
What they care about is my loved one able to sit up properly? Are they able to feed themselves? Those are the things that they actually want to get measured, but people are not studying that. So they can do literally millions of dollars of research on that one thing, but it's not actually going to go back and result in any type of change.
See, this comes back to product management.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, there seems to be a product management problem.
Yes, there is.
Because one thing that product managers are meant to do is to define the user and define their use cases very definitively so that you can actually solve problems for that end user.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe the researchers are disconnected from the end users.
Very much so. So there's a whole movement around patient centricity for research, and both for healthcare and for research. But on the research side, it is, are you doing something that patients care about? That can you measure it in a way that they could actually say this is helpful for them? And that's completely lost. So having like that North Star metric for your company, for your product, like all of that matters as a product manager. But in terms of that type of thinking being there for research, for healthcare, it's very much like nascent.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago, you discovered this. How did you discover this problem, like in research?
Yeah. So I guess being at the previous company, Sama, just coming in from a sort of tech product background, having to learn about the problems that our end customers were having. So they're having challenges with medical data. They're having challenges with clinical research and getting patients into studies. So those were the things that I kept just going to conferences, talking with folks, and even my co-founder for Adaptic, we met each other while he was interviewing for our chief medical officer role at Sama. He ended up going somewhere else, but I'm like, we hit it off, and he has like 40 plus years of experience in the medical field and thought leader working with the FDA and others. So it's being tied in with those who are experiencing these problems, realizing that something's broken. Let me just be the naive person, just keep asking questions around it, and then coming back to the first principles, like how do we actually address this?
Yeah, but it's interesting because you started, I think, with trying to take that insight in the wasted money within research and try to solve problems within research, but you've pivoted like 4 times.
Yeah.
And now you are actually closer to the patient than you've ever been before.
Correct.
Maybe talk about those pivotal moments where you had to transition your company to where it is now.
Yeah, no, that's great. So as we started off, we were thinking more about this as a SaaS platform, targeting a chief medical officer at a pharma company where they're the ones that making these decisions about the trial design.
Oh, enterprise SaaS.
Enterprise SaaS for it. But
these are like 6-figure, 7-figure decisions
Correct.
that CMOs are, chief medical officers are making.
Correct. And it's go, no go decisions on whether they're going to move forward, if they're going to get like FDA approval. What we found is that they don't have a line item budget for another SaaS platform.
Oh, wow.
They also, from a decision-making standpoint, this in general, usually it's hard to buy something that's going to help you make better decisions because you can't really A/B test it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's sort of like you make the decision, did it work better than if I did another decision?
Yeah.
You don't really know. So even though we're able to help some folks in that process, what we found is in the macro climate of things being high inflation, very much not extra money flowing around in the industry, especially for biotech and biopharma, that this is not going to be a winning proposition. We're not like pulling the product in need from our hands.
What we say at Overflow is when we approach certain people, they don't got the juice. They don't got the budget.
Yes.
Right. And basically what were they needing to endure with are just they on like Oracle or something like that, and they're already paying a lot for that. But it's like kind of like nobody gets fired for choosing IBM, nobody gets fired for choosing Oracle. So going with a new upstart is probably super risky.
Yeah, no, it's both like they see the risk that's there. They also see the status quo of I have a Google Doc, I have a spreadsheet, and I'm going to make a decision one way or the other.
Oh, okay. So based on the thing that you were actually offering them, they were already just doing on Google Docs anyways. Yeah. And what you're saying is they didn't have any marginal budget to invest into that area.
Correct.
We're just going to have to endure with Google Docs.
Yep.
Can we take a step back real quick? Can you describe the technical solution that you guys were building first for this initial product?
Yeah.
And then it'll maybe make more sense, kind of like the pivots you had to make from there. But what is the technical solution you guys came up with?
So if you think about your TurboTax, where there's a workflow that walks you through the process of your tax return and make sure that
shout out TurboTax.
TurboTax, exactly. Into it. That you're getting the optimum set of deductions in that process. That's essentially what we're doing with our platform. Cool. A TurboTax for trial design, where we're simulating out the different ways that you could be deciding on which population are you going to study, how many people are you going to have, what ways are you going to measure that particular research? And if something is working, then how quickly could you decide that it's working? If it's failing, how quickly could you decide that it's failing? So by having that workflow with our product, you could both accelerate the time to make decisions, but also de-risk all of those decisions. And it works great on paper, but in terms of both the status quo and the ego, we found also with a lot of the folks that we see that would be using it, they don't want to be second guessed, and they feel like, this could not do better than what I do. I've been doing this for the last 20, 30 years. Yeah. So, it was not a winning value proposition.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because you can even have a superior solution, but if you don't understand the psychology of the buyer, you could be frustrated all you want. Oh my gosh, they don't appreciate my innovation. Yeah. But that doesn't actually make you money.
Exactly. I'm curious, is it because they thought that your model would tell them an answer they didn't want to hear? Or was it really that they thought they could do better?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay, yeah.
So there is an aspect of, if we don't do this additional work, we can at least continue in my voice is the expert amongst everyone in the room.
Like, who's going to question you? Right? Like,
exactly. Like, you're the clinical lead for this.
Exactly,
you make the decision for it. But I think the other part is, even if it is quote unquote the best decision, is it worth the additional cost or the perceived effort that it's going to take for the team to do this? Since none of that comes for free, and they feel like they're having to go like full steam ahead with any decision at that point. So it just, it wasn't the burning thing that they had. What they did come back with us at was, can you help us get patients for the studies?
Oh, interesting.
Since that was always a pain point for them. Like, even if we design the best thing, but we can't actually get patients in, then it's still, it's like a shiny object without.
So you went from SaaS to patient recruiting.
Yeah.
And that didn't work.
It didn't work at scale, I would say, where there's still an element of in order to get paid by a researcher, pharma company, or anyone else, they want to see that you have been able to get that patient in, that they qualify for the study, and that they ultimately will stay in the study. And there's a lot of things that are not, patient-centric in that process, meaning that it might be the best study for you since that's your only study, but the patient might actually have their standard treatment they could be taking, and then another like 10 studies they could be a part of. Which is the best one for them? It might actually be study number 3, your study number 7. And if we only get paid for study number 7, it's not ethical for us to say, yeah, actually do that one versus what is best for them.
Yeah.
So that's where we, sort of went on that journey of let's make it available, like all the information that we can for these patients. And for a while, we're offering this as a service for these researchers. But what we got more as a feedback from the patients and the families is that this is a service that's helping them to be able to be more empowered, more confident as they go through the journey. They're thinking about all the options that they have. They're thinking about the travel, thinking about the support with their loved ones and everything else that needs to be there. And if we can come more so around them as a caring hand, that would be much more valuable for our patients being our actual customers and not needing to worry about monetizing it sort of separately. We can actually be a change agent for the broader healthcare.
So you are direct to consumer now.
Yeah, direct to consumer. We have a B2B element with being able to have this as an employee benefit on top of your health insurance. But at the core, our brand is consumer facing.
Yeah. So do you still surface clinical trials so you still have that database that you're kind of curating for clinical trials, and then you'll surface that to the end customer, being patients. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So actually, this recently, someone came to us, a friend of a friend for a co-founder, and this woman has been going on a cancer journey, and she was at a crossroads where her doctor was saying, we're going to need to start you on this treatment in a couple of weeks, but we don't have any other option for you. If you want to consider something else, go ahead. So she went to MD Anderson to consult. That's like one of the premier cancer institutions out of Texas. And UCSF locally, UCSF said they have no other options for her. MD Anderson said there's possibly 2 coming up, but we don't know if you're eligible. We just recommend you stick with what you have there. But because she got referred to us, we're able to take her medical records, do the analysis of what are her options around that, and within the same day, like give her that information with our AI-driven process. Our clinical lead, our chief medical officer, is the one overseeing it. So there's like a medical supervisor for it all. But MD Anderson, it took them another week to come back with some feedback, pretty much in line with what we were already sharing in terms of her options. And then we have another service that we've worked with that does a PhD researcher doing a manual sort of research of the process. And they came back with supporting that same focus, but saying, here are a couple other things that we would also sort of recommend, a case study around that. So we're like, at this point, we can be serving so many more people at a much lower cost point because of what we're able to do.
So you were 1 week faster, and also because you have kind of a concierge sidekick, you also were able to expand options. So you're 1 week faster,
Yep.
a couple more options, and then you said cheaper.
Cheaper.
Okay, because MD Anderson, you know their economics and you know kind of how much they cost.
Yeah, even like the manual researcher, like to be able to have a researcher on staff at that level is very expensive, and they're doing so many patients, do about 2,000 patients per year, and they're like, we're at capacity. So they were actually doing a favor for us to be able to expedite our client through that process. And another one was saying how their child has been going through a cancer journey, and what they heard from the doctor was they had no other options. But as they were going through our second opinion process, they got 2 more services that were doing these diagnostic testing to be able to determine which particular treatment would be more effective than another. that could unlock more personalized care treatments. And the actual doctors are saying to this family, like, out of all the families that we're treating, no one's coming back with like things that we never heard of before. So we're able to uncover things that the doctors don't even know because they can't stay abreast of this. One interesting fact is the amount of medical knowledge is doubling every month. So it's impossible for any doctor or any researcher to stay on top of this, even if they want to.
But are you guys tapping into different data than they are?
I guess, yes, there's two elements. Is like the public data, like your PubMed, your clinicaltrials.gov, that everyone has availability, access to be able to get. The ability to search that more thoroughly with sort of the latest AI tech is becoming normalized, but at the same time, not everyone is able to do this for their particular patient and understand that particular individual. But then there's other things that we have access to in terms of a broader network of companies that no one has on the radar yet. They're doing different diagnostic tests, different personalized treatments that we are aware of because we're just plugged into that network. So we can scour what's the best options out of those and then recommend those for our clients.
Is that just because like certain organizations like Kaiser are just not innovative maybe? And so, and maybe they are, but maybe they're just not innovative in the way that you are and also they're probably big, right? So if they're going to shift towards expanding AI to bolster their data set, it's probably going to take 18 months because they got to go through compliance.
Correct, exactly. That's exactly right. So what we find is that enterprise adoption of any type of tech, it always takes longer and always takes longer in healthcare and research. The consumers, they're always ready to adopt it much sooner. So by us being patient-centric with it and saying that we're using this on your behalf, then that's actually allowing us to utilize this in a much more innovative, accelerated way in the market.
Did you guys always start out as an AI-based solution, or did that happen later?
It happened later insofar as my background is like AI, machine learning, but my bias has always been, unless we're solving a problem that's worth solving, it doesn't matter. You can always sort of add the tech part in when it's needed. Obviously, we're not naive to when you need to talk about it, bring it up so that it actually is relevant. But interestingly enough, since things are moving so quickly, it's unlocked so many more things that we didn't even think were possible before when we were starting the company. And even when I showed some of this to my co-founder, because part of that, even an example I shared with being a week faster, it was me that was like, let me take the information that we have, let's run it through our latest AI engine for it and show it to him. And he's like, really? This is what we can come up with? Like, this is amazing. Because he also needs that level of confidence and validation, because you need to be your own sort of worst or best critic, so to speak. And at that point, I think he got even that much more excited.
Is it Anthropic? Is it OpenAI? What is it?
Yeah, so it's a mix of, we've used OpenAI, we've used Claude. It's probably more so using some of these other resources that are out there that are biospecific. Even my old company, Sama, put out a llama-based LLM that's outperforming a lot of the LLMs out there for anything medically related. So we have sort of our combination. Of these
Do you
things
have
together.
a private model that you guys use specifically for your company, or are you guys using?
So honestly, we've been able to get by with things that are like off the shelf available and just piecing that together. And it's more so based upon the prompting that we have to be able to use it. I think we'll get to the point where we'll need to have something that is more customized for us. But we realize it's not worth the cost.
Well, you're providing enough value for now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was curious because one of my friends, he just like recently became a doctor, and he was kind of starting to use this thing called AI Scribe internally at a hospital, which essentially just hears and listens to everything that you and the patient are kind of having a conversation about, and it'll generate doctor's notes for you. And so a lot of like old existing doctors don't really like the idea of, having all this information out there, like published to like some ChatGPT based kind of model. So I was curious, like what like the ethical, like HIPAA kind of, considerations around there using AI that's not like a private model and stuff. So yeah, just curious.
Yeah, it's funny enough, like we're actually prototyping this out because HIPAA gives rights to the patient and to be able to get access to all their records and use it for their own purpose. What the sort of misunderstanding is that the healthcare provider, your doctor, they can't use it against you. They can only say that if you ask for it, we have to give it to you.
Right.
And by them using the sort of AI scribe, they can use that for documentation purposes if you give that permission for them to use it.
Yeah.
But just as much as you can use it for yourself.
Right.
So that's essentially what we're now prototyping with some of our clients, where they can have the same thing, capability to go in, record, and then instead of it being the medical jargon in your medical record, you now have the summary of what things you need to do.
That's really cool.
So that you have like recall from what your doctor is saying.
Yeah.
So using the tech for your own purpose, and all that is you have the legal rights to, because it is your own data and you're using it for your own care. The alternative for what people are doing today is, especially for those that have been on the cancer journey, they are getting the records, putting it into a Google Doc or a Dropbox. They're sharing it out to whoever needs to see it because they just need and want help. They don't care about privacy.
Right.
And even for those that are us that are healthier, we need to figure out like, why I'm feeling this little pain. You go to Dr. Google. You just put something in. You try to ChatGPT.
I've been trying to ChatGPT diagnose myself, and it's semi-helpful.
Yeah.
I'm interested to work with you. And like you said, obviously people that are really sick, man, we need to get them help. But even people that might be healthy-ish, but are going on a personal health journey to want to optimize, right, is a huge and growing market. Right. Like personally for me, I've been kind of dealing with this situation when I have increased levels of cortisol. For example, so like when I run about 5 minutes in, I get this, thing on my body that's really uncomfortable. It's like this itchiness, right? I've never had it before. And so I know it's different. It's odd, right? And so, but I also want to like improve my run times. Like I know Arun's on a running journey and things like that. And so in general, between that and also my desire to kind of improve my performance athletically, I've invested in a lot of different things. I'm literally wearing a glucose monitor right now, partnering with Levels. It's an app. That gives you data in real time on what spikes your glucose and what's sustained, which means that my microbiome is different from yours. And so I might not be breaking down certain ingredients the same way that maybe other people can break it down. And so I do that. I have a Whoop band, right? Keeping up with my steps, and I have 8 sleep. You know what I mean? Really kind of optimizing my sleep, and because that's like a huge deal with health. And I don't know, those are all investments, right? And I'm making calculated decisions. I'm probably not going to keep all of these things together, but I've been testing out different things and trialing out different things. But the punchline is I'm not the only one. Like there are, I think, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions at this point, that are willing to invest. Do you invest in your personal health?
Oh, yeah. I'm wearing an Oura ring now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. I'm like, all this data is good. I think the other thing is being able to talk to your data. A lot of this is you see it, but like I have questions like, what does this mean? And that's why having AI and like ChatGPT, whatever model you use, it's just really helpful to be able to ask these like clarifying questions, because some of this stuff, might
Aura doesn't have it yet.
I don't think Aura. I have to
Whoop
check.
has it.
Oh, really? So
Whoop, you can talk to your data.
Oh, that's really cool. I have to check. Aura, it's just been reading the data, so maybe I haven't seen it. But if it does have it, please feel free to correct me. But I'm going to check when I go home today. But I think that's the best part about it, especially with stuff you were mentioning. When I go, for example, with my parents to the doctor, you'll hear something, or I'll hear it from them. It's still just like base level kind of, these are the things that they mentioned, but it's like, what does that really mean? Like, what is that? So it's like cool that you're doing this kind of thing. Like the thing that I always thought about is like, when you go to a mechanic, like if I send my wife to a mechanic, they're usually just going to say whatever. And she's just like, let's just fix that. But like, you really don't know what to say back in terms of like, is it really something I need? Is this really what it's cost? But like, if you have a model that knows kind of all the inner workings of your car, it can give you like, oh, maybe you should ask these follow-up questions, or like, this is what you should.
Well, I'll take it one step further. How many times does medicine actually heal a person?
That's a great question.
Interesting.
Right? Like I think, I don't know the data exactly, but I was literally talking to a doctor last week about this, and he's like, look at the data. how many times does medicine actually heal a person?
Right.
It doesn't typically heal a person. It just helps them manage pain.
Right.
And so what he was saying is that your body's actually very intuitive. Your body's very smart. And so when it's having symptoms, something is wrong. You need an oil change. You're running out of gas. So a lot of times the way that the current medical system at large works is that they can diagnose what's happening, and then they give you duct tape.
Yeah.
You see your dashboard? That's what's happening. Oil change? Just put duct tape over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't actually get to the root of what's happening.
Correct.
A lot of it, I've realized in my own personal research and talking to this doctor last week, actually is just what you input.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it, you can
diet.
reverse the damages in your liver. You can reverse the damages in your organs by just eating differently and understanding how your body and your microbiome responds to different types of food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I've literally met people personally. It's been weird in this health journey in the last 2 months that have literally told me firsthand experiences of fundamentally getting live blood tests, fundamentally understanding the core root of the issue, what's missing or what's too heavy in their diet, changing that within 90 days. It's like a miracle.
Yeah. No, it's true. No, even for me personally.
And that's not medicine. That's just food.
Yeah.
And that's why one reason why we say it's not necessarily that we're empowering people for healthcare, but we're empowering families for health. Because health is not just your health insurance or going to the doctor.
There you go.
But it is all the things that you're eating. It's all the things that you're participating in, the ways that you're, even spiritual health. Like all these things go together.
They're connected.
And I think, there's more research that's coming in line with what we even know from the Bible. It's like all these things are connected around it. But at the core, if you're not empowered, if you're not actually realizing that you have agency to be able to go on a journey, and ultimately God is our healer, but we can have our own decisions to be able to be supportive of that and let the body actually do what it's supposed to be doing, then you're never going to have the gap between knowledge and reality be actually filled. So that's essentially part of it.
What do you guys think healthcare looks like in the future? Because at the end of the day, I don't mean to pick on Kaiser, right? And if you work for Kaiser, praise God for you, because we've delivered babies in Kaiser and all that type of stuff. But if we could just speak pragmatically for a second, and it doesn't have to be Kaiser, but just our general healthcare system, what is it actually still disproportionately good at? Because I don't feel like it's definitely not good at everything.
No.
So, but what is it like? What do you think at the core? What is it for now?
It's good right now for accidents. Things where,
so emergency room.
Yep.
Okay.
That's where
I buy that. Ambulance system. They have those responders. They have all the tools and the infrastructure to handle emergencies. Okay. So hopefully people don't often get into emergencies, right? But I can see how our healthcare system needs to be, subsidized by insurance, healthcare plans by companies. But then the rest of it is getting subsidized, and it feels like it's not good at anything outside of emergency. You know what I mean? And so what does that look like? What does the future of healthcare look like when maybe companies like Aura, maybe companies like Caring Hands are actually more on the front lines? They're actually starting to, on a conversion rate basis of healing and helping people, are actually more effective. Do you think that company healthcare plans are going to get influenced by being able to subsidize these things the same way that Kaiser, Blue Shield are being largely subsidized by these healthcare plans?
I should jump in here. I actually think where healthcare is going is towards this preventative kind of.
That's what I'm
saying. It's going towards this idea.
But we have to pay out of pocket.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like that it's kind of pushing the narrative forward where it's kind of in our control. Whereas before it felt like when you went to go see a doctor, it was almost too late. You would go and then they would discover something. Whereas now we're getting all this data that's we can, for me personally, whenever I wanted anything to know about myself, I'd have to go see a doctor. Whereas now we have all these other tools at our hand that we can see statistics and numbers early, where it's like you're saying, it's the stuff that we can change without needing to go see a doctor.
Yeah, but okay, so let's do the math really quick. So, we could ChatGPT this. Maybe Luke knows off the top of his head. How much per employee do you guys think, is the amount for healthcare, per year? or per
I
family?
can check, but if you know.
Do you know that general number?
Yeah, general number for the U.S. is about $12,000.
Okay, $12,000, right? What I'm saying is like, is there a future world? So 12,000, let's say it's actually for a whole family of, I have 4 kids, right? Let's say it's 25,000, right? Something like that, right? So what I'm saying is that, is there a future world in which I can just elect for the $5,000 plan for emergency at Kaiser?
Yep.
And then I want the $20,000 margin to invest myself into Aura, into Whoop, into 8 Sleep. You know what I'm talking about?
So
because like I feel like there's so much wasted healthcare plan money right now.
That future is now, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
talk to us. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Can I do that? How do I do that? I own the company, so I can.
No, exactly. We'll chat after.
But tell the people. There's a lot of other business owners on this pod.
Yeah. So there's these plans called ICRAs, these individual contribution for health reimbursement accounts, where you set up how much as an employer you want to actually allocate for healthcare per employee or per family. So let's say it's $1,000 per month, then that's what you're able to spend. So that make sure that you're not going over your costs as a company, but then as an employee, you get to choose where that money gets divvied up. You have to choose a healthcare plan, so like you're a Kaiser or something like that. But everything else, you get to select up where you can put some money into FSA, HSA, put it toward Caring Hand, put it toward your Aura, massages. And as a result,
gym membership,
you get to be able to personalize the benefits that you get, but also be able to make sure.
Wait, is this an HR mechanism or is this a software thing, or how does it?
It's a mix
how come people don't know about this?
I don't even know.
That's what I'm saying. Can he do it as an employee at Miston Labs? Or does he have to talk to the HR department?
Yeah, the HR
have
has
to give me the option.
Okay.
They have to give you the option for it.
Got it.
So it was a regulatory change back in 2014, right after, I guess, part of the Obamacare piece that came in that made this possible. And then now it's actually getting solidified. It's actually picking up steam.
So our company's on Gusto. Many startup companies might be on Gusto. Are you on Gusto?
We used to be,
Okay, used to be, right? So we're on Gusto. So how do I activate this? So like currently we're on Gusto and I think we cover like 90%, and then 10% out of pocket, blah, blah, blah. How do I switch it to more like a la carte?
So there's it's called ICRAS, right? Just,
ICRAS, yeah.
Okay, ICRAS.
So there's 2 companies that we're connected to, Take Amend Health and Remodel Health. Both CEOs, founders are Christians, actually.
Oh,
so yeah,
makes sense.
Christian strike.
Because it actually has worked really well for small businesses and nonprofits, where healthcare costs
You're speaking my language, man.
are really
my
skyrocketing. But this is one thing where they're interested in us being a part of their platform, because they have software that helps you to administer plans like this. Because you have to comply with.
But do I have to
guidance.
tell my Gusto admin to like bring this company in, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think I guess logistically,
because Gusto has like the stock standard
correct
things that we have to pick, right?
Yeah, but I think it ultimately would come down to you probably turning off the Gusto
automated
ones, working with one of these platforms.
I see,
and they have integrations into the payroll systems of what needs to be deducted.
Okay, got it.
Cool. But you would more so be now interfacing with these companies around that. And then for the healthcare piece, obviously we want to position ourselves as like that front end for the employees, where they're dealing more day to day with a
beautiful
proactive sense of health. And then having their Kaiser or whatever other insurance to be able to be that.
So it's kind of a hack, right? Because basically as a business owner though, you're looking at it, let's say it is $12,000 per person per year that you're paying. But maybe half of them are in their early 20s,
right?
And they never went to the doctor this past year.
That's crazy.
And so there's all that waste. And so what you're saying is that you can put the power into your employees' hands even further by canceling the stock standard, still giving them up to, right? But not having to prepay that all up front.
Correct.
Because if they choose to customize it to where, oh, no, I just want the lowest on Kaiser and I want to take the margin and I want to do a gym membership, maybe they come up with, because they never went to the emergency room, maybe they come up with just like $5,000 in a year for the gym, and then the company then pockets that margin of $7,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The company can pocket a margin, but they also can save into HSA. So
right. Or you can set up a process where, okay, that employee benefits even further.
Correct.
Because the waste gets reinvested.
Yep.
Right. The margin gets reinvested into an HSA. And
you got to take this a step further and say,
So good.
I can like play to earn, basically. If I'm take care of my body, I should pay less.
Yes.
Forever. Like I should just, as I continue to do it, my metrics show I'm good.
Yes.
Just,
So this is what
That's how
we're
it should
working
work.
on with some companies where, as part of their benefit, if their employees are staying active with what they adhere to, what they're supposed to adhere to, with the Caring Hand, then we can continue to add funds into an account that they can use toward purchases for health care or lifestyle type of services. And so there's an incentive for you to stay active with your health. And by doing so, you get sort of more resources that are unlocked. So even like a reverse osmosis water filter is something that we just got.
Bro.
This is what we can unlock. We get it cheaper than you can get off of Amazon.
Wow.
So that's like the Costco benefit of being able to get that.
Dude, this is... If I wasn't trying to solve generosity, I would be going 13 hours, 14 hours a day at this industry because it is a huge unlock.
It really feels.
Like, honestly, like performing your fitness to unlock like cool rewards.
Yeah.
If I was part of that system, I would go hard at the gym.
Of course. We're doing it
Bro,
for
we
free.
would go. Bro, well, no. Because talk about your fitness journey.
Yeah.
There was an incentive.
That's true.
In this past
That's
season,
true.
and you've performed better than you've ever
That's
performed
true. A couple
before.
friends in my group gave me some incentives to lose some weight, and that's why I
give them
lost
some
weight.
details. Give the people what they want, as much as you're comfortable.
Who. Yeah. I won't
No,
say
not who, but like the
amount.
the amount,
Yeah.
and like what actually incentivized you to reach.
Yeah. So December last year, I was around 217 pounds. We're just hanging out with friends. Friends are like just making fun, like just ribbing each other, telling me, looking a little, pudgy in the in the sides. And so then they were like, if me and a friend, they were saying, if you guys lose 20 pounds in 2 months, start the new year, we'll give you guys $1,000 each. And so kind of going in, they just assumed, but if either of you guys miss it,
You guys have great friends,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah,
I need to upgrade my friends.
I know. I'm like $1,000.
What the heck? I'm gonna like get real fat and then upgrade my friends.
Yeah,
Dang.
you're just showing your gut everywhere. If only somebody could help me with this. Yeah, but it's crazy because every year you have these kind of goals that you want to hit, but like having a little bit of a cash incentive really changes the dynamics a little bit.
Well, you hit the goal.
And when we hit the goal, me and my friend, we both hit the goal, and so now
You lost 20 pounds.
Yeah, 20 pounds. Yeah,
Bro, so
Congrats.
you're
Thank you.
at 197.
yeah. So I had to get down
less.
to. I got done 190 last Saturday. I'm like 195 now.
190.
I did a sauna kind of.
Yeah, you
UFC
did the water
cut.
weight. You did the water
I
weight.
did the water weight cut to hit.
But your average weight right now is probably 195.
Yeah, 195.
So
now.
22 pounds.
22, yeah.
Let's go.
That's right.
Where's
Nice.
Arun? I don't even see him anymore.
Yeah.
He basically disappeared.
All right. So, but that's like the idea.
Yeah, this is like validation.
Yeah.
So we have this thing with like accountability partners that you can just add them in.
Nice.
And then
I
be
love
able to
that.
like set that up. And then as you do the tracking around that, you earn the credits, then you can get your rewards around it.
See,
that's fantastic.
man, if it was so clear of like, especially with wearables now,
Yes.
right? Like with
Yeah.
with the Whoop, with the Aura,
Yeah.
right? Let's just take something simple. If you in the next 30 days hit a 10,000 step average,
Yeah.
just a simple
Simple.
thing. Like
Anybody can do
that's
that.
obviously
Yep.
proven to be like a super healthy habit.
Yeah.
Right? You unlock $50 off of reverse osmosis. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If
Why do
I
you-
wasn't trying to solve generosity, I would be all
But why
over.
don't the Kaisers of the world, who have all this stuff,
Just lack
not
of
just-
innovation,
Great
man.
question. Great question.
Just incumbents.
I'm not rapping
yeah.
on Kaiser,
Too-
whatever it is.
no, Blue Shield, whatever.
Whatever.
Like,
Yeah, why not?
you know.
Like,
Well, I think this is where the incentive for the current model, where in order to get paid as a healthcare provider, you have to have a billing code associated with the diagnosis, with the disease, and the activity you're doing around it. So anything that is truly preventative is not going to be associated with a billing code that makes sense for you to do.
Wow. So the fundamental business model
Ouch.
is there to keep us sick.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's honestly,
It's really.
show me your incentives.
Yep.
I'll show you your outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think even though like the individual
It's like
doctors,
lawyers.
nurses,
Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
not to dig on lawyers, but it's like billables, right?
Well,
Yeah.
It's like we're going to talk about, shooting the breeze. How's your kids doing all day? Because it's on the clock.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like
every 6 minutes. Oh, man.
I feel like we're about to get into this. So I just want to touch on this because we spoke offline about, government funding for health organizations. But DOGE, if you haven't been following, like their whole goal is to cut government spending. They're trying to figure out what is the most efficient way of doing this. And a lot of what they're doing is kind of, initially, let's see if we can just cut everything, and then we'll see kind of where people are kind of yelling and like where we need to go. So the biggest thing in the news recently was the U.S. aid stuff. A lot of stuff they're uncovering seems like wasted spending. And so like I've been really excited about hearing about this, but something you brought up, which I hadn't seen, was cuts for NIH, which was like about $4 billion in cuts.
Correct.
So I did a little bit of research about it, but I'm curious if you could just tell us a little bit more about that and, how that really is affecting the areas that you've been kind of working towards.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the headlines you'll see is that NIH funding is being cut. It's going to result in breakthroughs not being found, cures not being found. And what it means is out of a $35 billion budget, $4 billion that has been allocated for indirect costs are being cut. If you think about how the Dukes, the Stanfords of the world went to school, like where they get money is that if one of their professors, researchers gets $100 of NIH funding, there's another $60, $70 that the university gets as indirect funds that they can do whatever they want with it. It's supposed to cover like the electricity, the administration of the overall grant, but that money is essentially becomes that extra funding that these universities have been grown accustomed to. If you get a fund from like the grant from the Gates Foundation or other private foundations, it's about 10 to 15%. So about $10 or $15 out of $100 that they will give you in addition to be able to administer it. So what they're doing with this NIH cut is actually saying, literally the money that is considered overhead, we're going to say not to give that out, and let's actually allocate that for really direct research. And that's actually supposed to make things more efficient.
Yeah, like it's obviously it obviously would make things more efficient. They just had a fixed cost on. It like they're basically saying that all research is created equal.
Yeah.
So whatever research, we're just gonna give you an extra $60 on it.
Yeah.
Like that's so silly.
And the thing is, like these are pre-negotiated by university.
Yeah.
So Duke is looking 63%. Harvard is 69%. And all these universities have their own.
That? Yeah, that's so crazy.
It was just like over years they've just like have been able to get into.
Because somebody went to a dinner with a politician.
Exactly.
Like, wow.
So there's no guarantee they're using this money.
No, it's not for overhead. It's like going to their endowment.
Exactly. Yeah, especially if they, with all the money in the endowment, like if there is such a dire need and an opportunity.
Fund it from your endowment.
Exactly. Fund it from that. So it's just like, look at what is above the line, below the line.
Yeah.
And if you are saying that this is now going to get things below the line that really should be above the line, then okay, you should be.
You know adjusting. What Elon and this administration is doing is what a lot of people that have trouble with finances should do personally, which is just freeze all of your cards and see which collectors come that you really need to pay.
Right.
But if it's like Netflix and your 12 other subscriptions that you don't really need, and you have a problem with money, maybe just like keep it frozen. You'll probably be like over water, not underwater.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's literally like what Elon's doing now with the government. It's like, guys, did you know that we're like trillions of dollars worth of debt?
Right.
Let's just freeze all the cards and let's see who screams.
That's crazy. He's literally doing that.
He's literally doing that.
Now we're seeing.
And then people are screaming because like U.S. foreign aid, all the people are coming out. Hey, you just spread misinformation. You said that you tweeted that it was $50 million worth of condoms sent to Gaza. It wasn't Gaza. It was Mozambique.
Yes, I heard that.
And he's like, oh man, I'm going to get some stuff wrong, but that's still a lot of condoms.
Like, oh, you guys are missing the point.
Yeah, you're missing the point. It's like you can say whatever country. That's just maybe too much.
That's cool though. That because like it's funny when I did the research, I was thinking, oh, maybe you were going to take the angle of we shouldn't be cutting. Like, we need this money for healthcare. Because that's all the videos I saw with people complaining.
Correct.
We can't keep the lights on. We won't have the infrastructure in place. And I was like, man, maybe I'm looking at the and I was going to come here and be like, I don't know, maybe it might be okay. But that's how kind of what you're thinking as well.
I mean, it all adds up, but I mean, $4 billion in comparison to the trillions we have to cut is just like a blip, man. And then people screaming about that. It's like, we got bigger problems.
But it does feel like the tip of the iceberg. Like, it feels like they're just scratching the surface.
Just scratching
of
the surface.
Like really just corruptness that's gone unchecked. And something I didn't know actually was that this idea has been in the government for a while. This idea of like government efficiency and like this mandate.
They've done it a couple times.
They've done it, but then it's kind of just
actually really, DOGE is just a renamed version of an entity already existed.
Exactly. I didn't know that, and so and
I think Barack Obama actually said it out.
And I don't know the reason it fails, but maybe it's because you don't have this kind of outside force that's like really pushing for zero reason other than he just wants to see it all cleared up. Whereas I think it was like an internal government effort where you can kind of get convinced.
Honestly, I think it's because of X. I think Elon has been able to have a megaphone that the government either never had the courage to have before, or maybe incentives that they shouldn't. Have before. Well, or he's just full send. He's like, whether you agree with me or not, you're gonna know.
No, I think the transparency is really key for all of this. The other thing I was hearing from an advisor in terms of perspective, since obviously Trump has been very polarizing to say the least with all of this, but there is the reality that the status quo for healthcare, for how the government runs, I don't think anyone would try to defend that this is the best system out there.
Exactly.
So, but change management, the hardest thing is for people to be willing to actually make a change. So in the most cynical way, even this advisor who's like definitely not a Trump fan, he was saying, if the only thing that Trump does is to dismantle the establishment of what's there, at least on the healthcare side was what he was referring to, but in all these other areas, then it forces us to actually come up with a different direction, a different plan around these things. And that's what is really needed to actually get any type of change to occur. If you can't stick with the status quo, you actually do need to move to something else, and essentially is taking away the status quo, that option.
Hey, that's intellectual honesty.
Right?
Even if you don't like him, the ability to come to that conclusion, I think is at least honest.
Yeah,
it's good.
Cool. Well, before we wrap up, I know we kind of go through this idea of like the founder's journey and all of that. You've talked through, a few pivots that you've had to make, but curious, like what is one of the most important things you've learned? Because this is officially your first founder's journey that you've been on, right? You've been part of other startups, but like this is the first one. So what is the one biggest piece of advice that you would give to people that are kind of going on this journey that you've learned doing this?
I think this keep moving towards something that you're seeing the pull in the market for. Interestingly enough, it's in the process of selling Girl Scout cookies with my daughters.
Oh, interesting.
Where I've like seen, this is truly what product market fit looks like. Where as we're like walking down a parking lot in the middle of nowhere, people will stop and say, "Can I get Girl Scout cookies?" Because they like want this so much. It's going to solve a pain point for them. And if you're on the founder journey and you realize that what you're doing is either if you don't have the problem yourself and it's not solving your problem, or if there's others that are not seeing this problem and like need to get it solved right now, then there's still something else that you need to be peeling back. Once you find that, then go full steam ahead around it. But that will solve everything if there's that demand for solving a problem in the market for you.
Cool. Amazing. And before we check out, would you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about HypeCon Dubai?
Man, I wish I could. I know that's going to be awesome, and I know the team is hard at work kind of finalizing all the details. Arun will be sure to put in the show notes the link, which is now live for HypeCon Dubai, which is literally happening in just a couple months. So if you're going to make the trip there, the journey there, you probably want to snag your flight tickets ASAP, unless you're going by boat and train.
And,
start now.
I commend you for that. But it'd probably be
the way to go.
Probably be better through Emirates. But it's groundbreaking, right? have never done a hype event in Dubai. We've done one in London. We've done one in Frankfurt. We've done one in New York, Miami. We've done one, obviously, many in the Silicon Valley. And so one of the most innovative cities in the world, we're going to break ground. And so maybe you don't want to miss it. You should be there.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you, Pastor Luke. It was a really great podcast. I know a lot of people here, especially myself, learned a lot about the medical field and how it's done. Shout out to DOGE and everything they're doing to make it a little bit more efficient. And excited to check out the app and all the changes you're making. So cheers to that. Thanks, Pastor Vance.
Awesome.
Cheers.